There's a city in Skyrim that looks alive. Stone walls, running water, guards pacing, merchants shouting, and everything about it seems functional. But something about it just feels wrong. No one smiles here, no one stays. The people speak in whispers. Their eyes dart like haunted animals. And beneath all that grandeur, something rots. I spent 1 hour in this city, digging into its stories, its people, and its silence. And this is what I found. Markarth is beautiful, let's get that out of the way. You come around the bend from Roekstead, and the cliffs open into this impossible Dwemer marvel. Waterfalls crash down from aqueducts, brass and stone blend into mountains. The wind carries echoes of history, but the second you enter the gates, someone gets stabbed right in front of you. The guards barely react, and if you think that's just a dramatic intro scene, buckle up, because that stabbing is the most honest moment this city has to offer. On paper, Markarth should be thriving. It's a marvel of ancient Dwemer engineering. Massive stone structures, gravity-defying aqueducts, defensible terrain. But it's all form and no soul. This city feels cold, not just in temperature, but in tone. You don't hear laughter. No kids playing, no clinking mugs or lute music in the tavern. Every room sounds like it's hiding a secret. Even the layout is hostile. Narrow alleys, multi-level homes. Impossible to see who's coming. It's like it was designed for people who didn't trust each other, and still don't. This isn't a city that grew from culture. It's one that was hacked together from what was left. Let's take a look at the population of Markarth. On the surface, you've got guards, Silverblood family members, miners, a single innkeeper, and a handful of nervous merchants. But talk to any of them, and you'll notice something. They all speak like they're being listened to, like they're not allowed to say what they really think. It doesn't take long to understand why. The Silverbloods. The family runs the city like a mafia. They own the mines, they influence the guards, they control the Jarls, and if you cross them, well, you end up in the Kidna mine. That's not a metaphor, that's the city's prison. It's also a fully operational silver mine run by convicts. And if that doesn't set the tone for Markarth, I don't really know what does. After walking around the upper levels for a while, I went deeper, literally. Beneath the city, there's the Warrens, a tightly packed slum that houses Markarth's poor, the sick, and the forgotten. Most have no beds, just mats. Rats crawl through broken pipes. No guard comes down here unless they're dragging someone out. You meet people who are coughing, limping, and muttering to themselves. They're not really enemies. They're just abandoned. And deeper still, the Dwemer ruins. Still half-living, still trickling along, and still dangerous. So yeah, it's somewhat beautiful, but this city is like a monument to suppressed suffering. But here's where it gets wild. Remember the stabbing I mentioned at the beginning? The attacker was part of the Forsworn, a group of natives who believes Markarth was stolen from them. And they're not wrong. A few decades ago, during the chaos after the Great War, the Reach's native population took control. For a brief moment, the Forsworn ruled themselves. However, then Ulfric Stormcloak showed up and massacred them. That's not a word I'm choosing lightly, that's literally what happened. And ever since, the Forsworn have been fighting a shadow war, striking from the hills, hiding in caves, and sometimes sneaking into the city itself. Markarth isn't a stable city, it's a powder keg. The guards work for the Silverbloods, the people work for fear, and the Forsworn, they just wait. So I did what any curious player would do. I followed the Forsworn conspiracy questline. Spoilers ahead, but let's just say don't expect to win. You get dragged into a murder plot, you try to investigate, you get framed, and you get arrested, and then you get dumped into that prison we talked about earlier. The only way out? Either slaughter your way through the guards or help the Forsworn break free. No matter what you do, innocent people die. And when you return to the surface, not one person thanks you for it. No one remembers. Markarth swallows your actions like the stone swallows the wind. I started calling Markarth a dead city, but that's not really true. Markarth's not dead. It's somewhat undead. It moves, it breathes, it functions. But the life in it is borrowed, artificial, and somewhat stolen. It was built by people who vanished thousands of years ago and is now inhabited by people who were displaced, and now, even more so, it's ruled by people who exploit both. It's not thriving, it's just enduring. And there's something deeply sad about that. Skyrim is full of places where people dream, love, fight, and fail. But Markarth is where people just give up. There were moments that stuck with me. A miner begging for food, a child trying to learn Dwemer history with no teacher, a smelter who doesn't even look up when you talk to them. One man thanks you for freeing the Forsworn, another spits in your face for the same act. Everyone in Markarth wears their trauma like armour. Even the city itself, its towers, its gates, feel armoured, closed off, like it's waiting for another war. Or maybe it's already lost one and just doesn't know it. Meet Jarl Igmund. Young, educated, and completely disconnected from the suffering that happens right below his throne. He inherited the position after his father died during the Forsworn uprising, and since then he's doubled down on Silverblood loyalty and denial. He believes the Forsworn are terrorists, that the city's strength lies in law and order. But he never walks the warrens, he never visits the mines, he speaks like a man reading from a letter someone else wrote. And maybe that's the tragedy. Igmund isn't evil, he's scared of the Forsworn, or being overthrown, or losing the only thing he was born into. Markarth doesn't just suffer from corruption, it suffers from a vacuum of leadership. No one is willing or allowed to fill it. Walk through Markarth long enough and you'll realise something strange about its people. They learned how to stop hoping. NPCs here aren't warm. They're not quirky or dramatic. Most of them just seem tired. The priest of Arkay, who begs for help with the Hall of the Dead. The innkeeper who quietly supports you but never speaks unless spoken to. The miner who gives you food even though he's starving himself. They don't want favours. They want you to leave them alone. That makes them some of the most emotionally believable characters in the game, because not everyone in a city dreams of adventure. Some people just dream of not being noticed by the wrong person. I believe I stayed in Markarth longer than I planned. After wrapping up the Forsworn questline, I did what most players wouldn't. I didn't leave. I stuck around, I wandered the alleys, I talked to every NPC again. I waited to see if the city would actually change. But it didn't, and I started noticing what wasn't there. There are no children in Markarth, no beggars, no factions setting up camps, no bard playing in the inn, no festival days, no weddings and no funerals. It's like a city that's been frozen in time, emotionally sterile, spiritually starved. Even the innkeeper never cracks a real smile. The energy is transactional. You're not welcome, but you're somewhat tolerated anyway. And in Skyrim, a game that rewards discovery, Markarth is kind of the only city that seems to resent being discovered. On the surface, Markarth is a marvel of Dwemer architecture. The gears still move, the water still flows, and the stone hasn't cracked. But the deeper you go, the more it starts to feel like a coffin. Most Dwemer ruins in Skyrim are dangerous, sure, but they're also distant, separate, like relics or battlefields. But here, you literally live in one. Every home, hallway, temple and street corner is built into bones of a vanished race. And that creates something strange, an invisible pressure. The people here aren't just occupying the ruin of an empire, they're being crushed by it. You can feel it in the Temple of Dibella, which still shares space with ancient mechanisms. You can hear it in the Hall of the Dead, where every coffin seems to echo. You can see it in the architecture of the town itself. Rooms too big for humans, passageways that never really led to where you want to go. It's like the city is still built for someone else, and no one here has ever truly made it theirs. I tried asking people about the Forsworn uprising. Some acknowledged it, others just brushed it off. But no one really talks about it. No one says how many died, or what it felt like, or who survived. Even the Jarl avoids it, speaking in practice sentences like he's reading a letter he's memorized but never felt. Markarth is a city where trauma isn't really processed, it's paved over. The scars are still there in the way people speak, the way they move, and the way they stop talking when guards walk by. But no one has the space or the safety to grieve. In a way, the silence is the loudest thing in Markarth. Not what people say, but what they refuse to say. If you linger in Markarth long enough, you start to see odd things. A guard who follows you longer than necessary. A beggar who doesn't exist in the official scripts, but shows up in certain load orders. A blacksmith's apprentice who stops mid-sentence like he forgot what he was saying. You get the sense that there are fragments here, remnants of something cut. Maybe quests that were removed, maybe dialogues that were scrapped, and maybe entire storylines that never made it past pre-production. But the leftovers remain. Lines that don't match anyone else's tone. Locked doors that no one explains. Whispers of unfinished business in a city that already feels like a graveyard. It's like wandering through a dream that someone else had and then tried to forget. Markarth doesn't have any ghosts, no spooky side quests, no cursed mansions other than the abandoned house. But it still could be considered the most haunted city in Skyrim. Not by spirits, but by history. Everything in Markarth feels like it has weight, and I'm not just talking about the stone that you see everywhere. The air and the way the people pause before speaking feels like heavy. It's not fear of monsters, it's the fear of consequence. You help a miner, the Silverbloods might take it personally. You talk to a forsworn sympathizer, you might find yourself tailed. You help the Daedric cannibal cult hiding in the Temple of Dibella. Yes, that's a thing. No matter what you do, the feeling is the same. You're not supposed to be here, not because you're the threat, but because everyone here is already trying not to drown. And your arrival means the water's rising again. After around 2 hours in Markarth, I tried to leave. I had nothing left to do, no quests, no fights, no dialogue left unturned. But I still find myself circling the same streets, sitting on the same bench, watching the sun rise over the cliffs and wondering, why does this place actually feel heavier than all the others? And then it hit me, because most places in Skyrim tend to give you resolution. You solve the quest, kill the monster, win the war. But Markarth gives you questions, then traps you with them. You walk away knowing less than when you arrived. And that's what makes it feel real. Not heroic, not epic, just real. Like a pain you can't fix. Like a story with no ending. So finally, I spent 2 hours in a dead city in Skyrim, and it felt real than most of the other cities I've been to in the game, or maybe even life. Not because of the mechanics, but because of its weight. Markarth doesn't try to make you feel heroic, it makes you feel small, and sometimes that's more powerful than any dragon fight.